A bizarre incident described by compelling witnesses took place in 1965 in Brazoria County, Texas. Two law enforcement officers, Chief Deputy Sheriff Billy E. Mccoy, aged 38, accompanied by Deputy Sheriff Robert W. Good, aged 50, made a report in which they described an encounter with a UFO. They disclosed the incident to a major at a nearby Air Force base, and their case was included in the Project Blue Book files. While their report has several strange elements in it, what wasn't included in the case file is even stranger. According to McCoy's written statement, at about 11 p.m. on Friday, September 3, 1965, he and Good were driving southbound from Damon to West Columbia, Texas, on Highway 36. They had travelled about 3 miles south of Damon when McCoy noticed a stationary light, what they later described as a brilliant purple glow, on the horizon in the southwest, 5 or 6 miles away. A smaller, less powerful blue light emerged from the purple light and moved towards the right, stopping twice before also remaining stationary. Then both lights ascended upwards to 5 or 10 degrees above the horizon. The officers were unable to discern any details apart from the lights from their position. They U-turned to head back towards Damon to seek a back road that could take them closer to the lights. As they travelled, Good viewed the lights through binoculars, and after about 3/4 of a mile, they pulled over to the side of the road and slowed down. While Good continued looking through the binoculars out of his open window, the lights advanced towards them at what they described as rapid speed. What they later described as an object had moved up and stopped over a field next to the highway, by now 150 feet away and 100 feet high. McCoy later told Air Force investigators that the distant object moved from where they originally observed it to its position above the pasture in, quote, merely the blink of an eye within just 3 or 4 seconds. The huge object was triangular shaped, having the purple light on its left side and with the blue light on its right. It was coloured a dull grey and with no distinguishing features, appearing about 200 feet wide, 40 to 50 feet around the middle, and tapered off at both ends. No sound could be heard, and the purple light illuminated the ground beneath it, as well as the sign ahead of it, the highway, and the interior of the patrol car. The bright moon that night caused the object to cast a shadow on the grass underneath it. Good, who sat in the driver's seat while resting his arm on the open window, later reported that he felt heat through his long sleeve and jacket that seemed to be emanating from the object. McCoy later related that they immediately geared up the car and headed back towards Damon as fast as possible. As they reached speeds of 110 miles per hour, McCoy continued to observe the object out the back window. Now racing down Highway 36, the UFO hovered above them while still bathing the inside of their car in bright purple light. Eventually, the craft's pursuit ended, and the deputies watched it return over the roadside pasture at some distance from them. It remained there for about 10 seconds and then darted at a super high speed back to the position where they had first seen it. It then shot straight up into the air, only to disappear at 25 to 30 degrees above the horizon. Once in Damon, the pair slowed down and discussed what they had witnessed. Although scared, they decided to return and again observe the object so as to find out what it was. This time, they turned into the old Damon-West Columbia Road, which would place them nearer to the object's original location. After driving the length of the road and not seeing the object, they headed back to Damon via Highway 36. On reaching the spot where they first saw the lights, they again spotted the purple light, where again the blue light came out of it and behaved just as it had before. Again the men decided to leave because they suspected the object would start advancing towards them once more. In West Columbia, they told City Judge Jim Scott what they had witnessed. Scott then went to the area with his family, waited for over an hour, and departed without seeing a thing. When Mccoy told his story 30 years on for an oral history collection, it turned out that a scrape with a baby alligator was the reason that he and Mccoy were on duty together that night. Good had brought the reptile home to show his kids and ended up being bitten when he picked it up by its tail on releasing it into the wild. He said that it nearly took his finger off. He had bandaged his left index finger and headed out for a football game before he was scheduled to work that night on patrol. He hadn't sought medical attention because, he said, there was no doctor in town and he was determined to be at that game. When he was due to go on patrol, he asked Mccoy to accompany him because he was concerned that his injured finger might hamper his driving. After the incident, the pair had breakfast at a diner, and Mccoy remarked to Good that one good thing about their bizarre sighting was that it made him forget about his finger hurting. Good then realised that his finger was no longer sore, and he removed the bandage. According to Mccoy, his finger looked like it had instantly healed. Good then remembered feeling some kind of beneficial effect from the warmth on his arm which had been outside of the car window. The next day he could hardly even see the scars there. His potentially infected finger had healed. But it was the account of the so-called odd-looking visitors that is the most chilling aspect of Good and Mccoy's experience. Only 2 days after their sighting, after it was reported to the Air Force, but well before it was made known to the media, 2 men approached the Brazoria County Courthouse looking for the 2 officers. Mccoy was off duty that day, and the dispatcher notified Good, who met up with the men at the Twin Oaks Cafe in West Columbia. Good later told Mccoy that they were 2 small men wearing dark suits and little derby hats. They introduced themselves by saying that they were reporters from Pasadena, but didn't provide a business card, and Good could not remember their names. They were well aware of the officer's sighting and told Good that if he and Mccoy had not been fearful and had waited, the craft would have landed and they would have been invited to enter and take a ride. The men told Good that he and Mccoy would have been shown things that humans can only imagine. They said that the pair would have been returned back and released unharmed, but that they would be unable to tell anyone about it. Then, in this Men in Black type scenario, came the quite sinister threat. If they did tell anyone about it, this duo would return and make jabbering idiots out of them. Mccoy responded to Good's account, saying that they didn't have anything to worry about because they hadn't stopped and gone for a ride in the craft. Besides, some people might be saying that they were already jabbering idiots anyway. Indeed, the commotion around the deputy's sightings attracted a massive media coverage in its wake the nearly 60 years ago and altered the men's lives. The report of their encounter with an unidentified flying object was met with heavy scepticism and tough scrutiny. However, their stories never wavered, and because of their honest reputations and then high positions of responsibility as sheriff's deputies, were in the main accepted as factual. Both men had been working as deputies in the Brazoria County Sheriff's Department for around 10 years at the time of their sighting, and so the general consensus was that visitors from outer space had made an appearance there on the night of September 3rd, 1965. Major Lawrence R. Lynch Jr., who investigated their report at Ellington Air Force Base, came to the following conclusion. He said that after talking with the police officers involved in the sighting, there was no doubt in his mind that they definitely witnessed some unusual object or phenomenon. He wrote that both officers appeared to be intelligent, mature, level-headed individuals capable of sound judgment and reasoning. He took into account that Chief Deputy Sheriff Mccoy held a responsible position in the department wherein he supervised over 42 personnel. Both officers, he said, had been subjected to considerable friendly ridicule from their colleagues and the local townsfolk, but had continued to confirm the facts of their sighting. They had also endured considerable embarrassment and inconvenience with the extensive coverage stirred up in local newspapers, radio and television. The conclusion documented on the Project Blue Book record card is a vindicating, quote, unidentified.